Welcome back to the Book Nook. Today we're going to answer a very important question in behavioral economics. Now, as you've learned from this course, we've known a lot about how we can intervene to help people make better decisions. We've talked about reminders and choice architecture and nudging and decision points. But the one thing that we don't know as much about is when we should intervene. So for example, when we look at reminders, should we remind people in the morning or in the afternoon? Should we do it before lunch or after lunch? Weekend or weekday? Which month of the year, which season? These are some of the questions that Daniel Pink addresses in his fascinating new book called When: The Scientific Secrets of Perfect Timing. In his book, Dan takes a deep dive into our understanding of the psychology of time. What is time? How have scholars conceptualized time? And what evidence do we have about timing that allows us to make more nuanced decisions about when to intervene? To learn more about the book, let's listen to Dan Pink talking about when at a recent event at Bear.
Here are these three kind of stages, peak, trough, and a rebound. And what seems to be the best remedy here, the best thing to do, is to move certain kinds of tasks to certain times in the day. Okay, so let's talk about our peak. Now, most of us go through it in people who are morning people, what are called morning chronotypes, meaning they wake up early, go to sleep early. That's about 14% of the population. You have about 20% of the population that are evening types, night owls. They rise late, go to sleep late. And then you have a bunch of people in the middle, as with a lot of these things, what I call third birds. They're a little bit of both. And there are big changes in our chronotype as we age, et cetera, et cetera. But what we see is this pattern, peak, trough, recovery. For most of us, we follow it in that order. Owls, late night types, actually often go in the reverse direction. But regardless of what direction you go in, so we have a peak. The peak is when we should be doing our analytic tasks. Tasks that require heads down, focus, and vigilance. And vigilance is the word here. Vigilance is the word here. When we're at our peak, we're vigilant. We can keep out distractions. So this is the time when you should be doing analyzing a financial statement, writing a report, the things that require that kind of locked-in, heads-down focus where you're capable of batting away distractions. You're vigilant in that period. The trough, this period down here, that's not very good for much. You see a lot of. There's a remedy for this, which I'll talk about. You see a lot of bad stuff happening, for instance, in healthcare. Dill's colleague, Katie Milkman, has led some of this research about errors in hospitals, for instance. You see anesthesia errors in hospitals are about 4 times more likely in procedures that begin at 3 versus procedures that begin at 9 a.m. All kinds of bad stuff. A doctor is more likely to prescribe unnecessary antibiotics in afternoon exams rather than in morning exams. I don't know, it's 8:20 on a Friday morning. Let's talk about colonoscopies. So why not? Colonoscopies. You take colonoscopies done in the afternoon versus colonoscopies done in the morning. Doctors typically find, there's research showing doctors find half as many polyps in afternoon exams versus morning exams. So the trough isn't good for very much. So what we should be doing in our trough, that trough period of a few hours, is our administrative work, right? Answering your routine email, filling out your TPS reports. And one of the things that comes up, one of the things that happens is, both at the organizational level and the individual level, is so our bosses make us go to useless meetings during our peak, and so we squander that time when we should be doing our heads down work. Or we sabotage ourselves, and we say, oh, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to check a few emails. But what's on Twitter? Oh, I got to check on Facebook. Oh, I need to make a quick call. And suddenly our peak is squandered, and we start doing our heads down work during the trough, which is a mistake. Now, the third period, the recovery period, is actually really, really interesting. I think it's interesting because what we have is an interesting combo platter. What you see here is recovered mood, but we're less vigilant. And that's actually an interesting combination, because when we have a higher mood, our mood is improved, but we're less vigilant. It's not a bad time to do creative kind of work. And so the researchers, so what some research has found is that we're better doing creative work during our non-peak time. They call this the inspiration paradox, not a lovely term there, because you have this combo, higher mood and less vigilant. And so if you're brainstorming, you don't want to be super vigilant, I mean, we've been in those sessions. That's a stupid idea. That's a stupid idea. That's a stupid idea. You want to be a little bit more, you want to be a little bit looser. So that's when we should be doing our insight work.